Good morning. Have I got a treat for you today? I'm going to do a review of my Native Watercraft Slayer 10 Propel. I've had the kayak for about 7 years now, so I think I'm in a pretty good position to give a review of it. I will say up front, this thing is awesome and I love it. Every time I use it, it brings a smile to my face. I mostly use it for fishing in creeks, rivers, lakes, more the freshwater style, and it does an awesome job. Let's have a closer look at it. So what I'll do is I'll go over first what I like about it, and then I'll go over the things that are not so good, which is not many of, and then I'll show you my setup. So let's have a look. One of the main reasons I bought this kayak is because of this unit here. It's a Slayer Propel pedal unit. It's amazing because it allows you to go forward and reverse without having to use a paddle. Now that's super important when you're in a current situation and you want to stay, I guess, horizontal or stay in a position so you can cast that lure perfectly into a snag instead of being swept down the river. The reason it's really important is when you actually do hook a fish, often the fish will drag you and you want to be able to pull back or stay stationary. And this unit allows you to go forward or reverse without having to switch any levers or anything like that. So it frees your hands up because, you know, it's pretty hard. You're trying to cast a lure, you're getting swept down into a current, you've got a paddle going, it's all too much. But as I said, forward and reverse without having to adjust anything is just so advantageous when you're fishing. So moving down the kayak, the next thing is a seat. It's a really comfy seat. I mean, really, you should have a break every couple of hours when you're out in the water, but I'll often get caught up in the moment and stay out there for 3, 4, 5 hours. The seat is really comfy, good adjustments. Yeah, really good product. The other thing I should point out is the pads here. It's a very stable kayak. You can stand up in it very easily. You can sight cast from it. I mean, I don't really do that very often, more so because I sort of worried if I do hook a big fish, it'll sort of pull me in. But it's good to stand up and have a bit of a stretch. So moving along, there's a couple of rod holders. There's also one around the other side. There is a nice little waterproof hatch here. I actually use that for storing lures sometimes. Then at the rear, you've got a great amount of storage. I just use a crate, but if you do want to keep your fish, you can put an insulated bag in there as well. Further around, got your drain point, got your handle, and got your rudder. So moving around to the other side. Now you've got these track rails a whole way around, which is really important or really handy for mounting accessories. They're exactly where you'd want those, on the sides, on the front, which is really cool. But that's probably the main features. So if I'm now talking about the pros, I mean, I've talked about the Propel unit, it's awesome. The other thing is, what I like about the Slayer 10 is the size of it. It's 305 centimeters lengthwise. It's got a beam of 86 centimeters. It's a great size. It's a great size for rivers because you want something a little bit nimble, something that is quite maneuverable. But probably more important for me is that with that size, I can happily put it on the roof of the car myself. Once you start getting a bit bigger into the, like the Slayer 13s or a 12, 13, 14 foot kayak, they just get too heavy to put on the roof. And that's the other thing I like about this. Unladen, this thing weighs 27 kilos, it could be 28. So again, it's quite manageable, which I think is really important. I spoke about stability. This thing is amazing. I've never even come close to tipping it. Quite often in the creek, there's underwater structure, you bang into things, but I've never even come close to tipping it. It is really stable. It's got a capacity of, I think, 181 kilos. So, that gives you an idea, especially with the hull design as well, that, if you're a larger person or if you're going to carry a lot of gear, no problem at all. Another thing for me that's important is build quality. This kayak is made in the USA, which for me is a big tick. And it is a seriously well-built kayak. when I go fishing in the creek, there's structure everywhere, so it's banging into everything. You know, to get it down to the water, I often have to drag it. You know, I'm obviously quite careful, so it does take a bit of a beating, and it's 7 years old, but it looks in really good nick. I'll show you underneath, because there are a few little scratches. I mean, which you'd expect. Actually, there's a lot of little scratches, but they're only surface scratches. Let's see if we can see some. Yeah, you can sort of see them along here. So we spoke about build quality. I've just removed the Propel unit just so we can have a closer look at it. This section here is obviously submerged, and quite often you'll hit structure that you can't see, and this thing is just solid metal. It's not going to break at all. It's a very well built, strong unit. Let's have a look at the storage. So up front you have this hatch where you get access to the whole hull. You know, you can throw a dry bag in there and have quite a lot of storage if you're going on longer trips. I mentioned you've got the storage at the back, exposed storage. I've also got this additional back seat bag, which is really handy. I use it to store my lures in there. That's very easy to get to when you're on the water. And also you've got the under seat storage as well. So I always ensure I have my pliers handy. I have my knife, fish grips, and I also keep my landing net under there, all within easy reach. So I mostly use this for lure fishing. So I generally don't mount rod holders along here. I'm happy with the inbuilt ones that come with Native. I do sometimes run a fish finder. You can see I've got the mount here, but I haven't actually put the fish finder on. I have my transducer in here. You can see it just stuck there, hopefully. And also there's a little battery mount there. Hopefully you can see that. The other thing that I do is that when you put this down, which I can't really do now because it's on a table, but it comes with a plate here and this locks in. I don't use that plate because, as I've mentioned a few times, when you're out in the water on the creeks, there's a lot of structure on the water you can't see, and you will hit stuff. So by having this plate off, it gives a little bit of play if you hit structure, similar to an outboard boat motor on a boat. And just a couple other things to point out in my setup. I actually like keeping a full length pedal along here, and I use these clips for it. The reason is often I get stuck in snags, and I actually do need a full length pedal. If you're out in the ocean, you can happily stow away break your pedal in half and stow it away, but I need the full length one. The other thing is I use this crate. As you see, it's pretty simple. Just has my water bottle, GoPro accessories, a few other bits and pieces, and my lure retriever. I find that really handy. So I've covered most of the things that I really like about the kayak. If I've got to try and find some things to be a little bit objective about what's not perfect, probably the biggest thing was the steering. But just to note, the steering's been fixed in the newer models of the Slayer 10. Mine's 7 years old. But the issue was that the lever would only go around about that far, which meant the rudder was sort of only going, or maybe a little bit there, but it didn't have that big a turning circle. So Burley Pro, an Australian company, came up with an upgrade where you can actually move the rudder or move the lever the whole way around. So now you get full momentum of the rudder, and that greatly improves the maneuverability and nimbleness. So that's one thing. But again, let's talk about Burley Pro. They also upgraded the cord, or the connection from the lever through the rudder. This was like a wire, and it was known to snap. Burley Pro have put in a much stronger cord. Again, the newer Slayer 10s have fixed this, but I still believe that this cord is actually stronger. And speaking of Burley Pro, I also put in this upgraded steering mechanism. It's just got a much more precise feel about it. Oh yeah, and the other thing is I did put in some seat raisers, again from Burley Pro. I put those in for two reasons. One, just to get a bit more height for comfort, but also if you put this on, it would hit the seat, so you sort of have to do the seat risers. So the only issue I've had with the Slayer 10 is that I did break a propeller. So that's one broken propeller in 7 years. So if you have a look at it here, I did break that. I got a log jammed in there, and I should have not pedaled, but I kept pedaling and that snapped. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't the end of the world because I still had half a propeller, so I could still, you know, get back to shore. But now I do carry a spare propeller. It's literally a 5-minute change. All right, you're probably getting the message that I'm a big fan of this kayak, and I am. I've owned several kayaks. I've got quite a bit of experience with kayaks, and this thing is just so well designed. It perfectly suits my needs, and it's just such a pleasure to use. So my thing's lure fishing and lure fishing for Murray cod, and I've caught a lot of fish in this kayak, and even I've caught a 90+ centimeter Murray cod. You can check out one of my other videos and you can see that. So probably just to wrap up, if you want to buy one of these, if you want more information, go to Capacity Sports in Melbourne. They are the sole importer, and they know these things inside and out. But I'm going to go fishing now because I am sitting by this amazing creek that is calling out my name. See you next time.